Back with another one. All thanks and praises due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds and creator of the universe. I like to say I love my mother, I love my father, I love our son, and I have love for the mother of our son. So the title of this one is the Superior Court of California, County of Marin, a tax exempt agency? Answer is no. So I will use Superior Court of California County and Marin County Superior Court interchangeably. So basically, what we have here is a letter from the IRS. Dear taxpayer, we're responding to your request dated February 15th, 2023, about the tax exempt status of Superior Court of California County of Marin. We have no records of this organization having tax exempt status under IRC Code, Internal Revenue Code, Section 501A. Therefore, we're unable to provide any documents in response to your request. So, this video will also be somewhat redundant because we've already covered the tax exempt status of the county council for Marin County. They're not tax exempt. And we also did a video on the tax exempt status of Marin County Sheriff's Office, which is also not a tax exempt entity. So some of the elements in this video will have some redundancy or be redundant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a few of the IRC codes that we spoke of before in the other videos. Just give me a brief second. So these are some of the frequently used criminal statutes by the IRS. Conspiracy to defraud the government claims, false, fictitious, or fraudulent claims, conspiracy to commit offense or to defraud U.S., public money, property, or records, mail fraud, frauds and swindles, fraud by wire, radio or television, bank fraud, mail fraud attempt and conspiracy, laundering of monetary instruments, prohibition of illegal money transmitting business, drug abuse prevention and control prohibited acts A, attempt to evade or defeat tax, willful failure to collect or pay over tax, willful failure to file return supply information, fraud and false statements, attempts to interfere with admin of tax laws. So this is redundant because I've already spoke of these before, but for those that haven't watched the other videos, I added that for your consumption. So basically, this letter is stating that the court, Marin County Superior Court, is not a tax exempt agency. This is a problem because they're claiming to be a political subdivision of the state. So, as we stated before, we have 52 or 53 counties in California, and I believe they all have a superior court. I could be wrong, but it is believed to have a court in each county. If I'm wrong, please respond or comment in the section in the comment in the comment section. So basically, this is an issue because this entity is claiming to be a court, and when you run them by the IRS, it's saying that they're not. So this is questioning the validity of everything that they do. Their court orders that they're making, um, what the way that their daily operations are, and just everything, even to the mundane things that they do, is questioning whether it's valid. So, as stated, the county has a CAFR review, comprehensive annual financial review. They have changed the name because CAFR could be seen as derogatory. So I believe they added an A to that. So this is an issue because they're claiming that they're a political subdivision and the whole public believes that, and whatever they're claiming for the public transparency wouldn't be accurate because most people think that they're tax exempt. But as stated, if they're not tax exempt, they're supposed to be giving people engaged in business with them 1099s. And they're supposed to be establishing who's the creditor or the debtor in that relationship. If they're collecting monies, they're supposed to be paying taxes on that. So basically, they would have to pay capital gains. So there was an issue where the Superior Court of California, Marin County, had to discharge debts under, I think it's discharge of accountability, where they asked the County of Marin Department of Finance to discharge about $7.8 million in whatever their alleged court cases were. This is on their website, so you could look this up. I believe it's called a discharge of accountability. I could be wrong. It said something to the likes where Mina Martinovich had given them permission for the court to discharge 7.8 million of money. And this is also an issue, the validity of that, because the county of Marin is not a tax exempt agency, as stated, and also this court is not a tax exempt agency. So they're both giving each other permission to do something when their whole tax exempt status is invalid. So that's something to think about and reflect on, is that you have one agency that's not tax exempt giving permission for another non-tax exempt agency to discharge their debt. And the flip side is when we try to discharge our debts, they give us problems. But their own codes and statutes and rules that they enforce upon us, they're not following themselves. So that's just something to think about, is that behind the smoke and mirrors, or basically like the old saying, the emperor is wearing no clothes, that these people are not tax exempt themselves. So it's like, you mean to tell me that they've made it hard for people, sent people to prison, people kill people over this, people's homes been lost, divorces, custody, probate court, civil and criminal, and then you come to find out that this court is not tax exempt and they're not paying their taxes, where they have to ask the county of Marin to discharge their debts, and they're not even a tax exempt entity. This is just like a rabbit hole that one will wish they didn't fall through, but the truth is the truth, and that's why we're discussing that today. So basically, the way that I found this out was that I had some incidences with the staff of this court, and when I was going through our family law case, and then the child support hearing, these people were forging documents, using whiteout on it, crossing stuff out with markers, and this was just the beginning of coming up with this audit to figure out who these people are. So basically, you have a maximum law, know who you're dealing with. So when I found out who I was dealing with, these people claiming to be working for the state and claiming to work for the court, but then they were forging documents. So then I had to find out who they are, and this is basically it here with this paper. I had an idea that they weren't tax exempt but always it's the proof in the pudding or the proof in the paperwork. So that's the thing, is that you could have the inkling or you could feel in your intuition and deep down inside, but when you see the paperwork, it's basically hearing it from the horse's mouth. So why would the IRS say this if it wasn't true? You know, they would say that they're a tax exempt entity and we give them certain privileges, or we exempt them from federal income tax. But they don't say nothing like that. It says we have no record. So that's a disturbing part, is that most of the public thinks that, but you would have to look at their books, their accounting books and their ledgers to unravel this hysteria from what this paper is saying. And whatever they have similar to a CAFR account would be inaccurate, because the public would think, okay, they're a court. But as stated, you would have to audit them as well as the sheriff. You would have to audit the county council, the county of Marin, the board of supervisors, any agencies that are involved with them. You would have to audit. So this is the problem: is that it would just be a massive can of worms, and it would just get out of control. So that's the thing, is that this is something that people don't want to stumble upon, or like a hot potato that they don't want to hold, and they'll pass it to the next person or pass the buck to someone quick. So basically, the court orders that they're making are also securities. So they're pushing them through an entity called CRIS, Court Registered Investment Securities. So that's how you find out all this stuff about people's cases going on the stock market, people being in prison and they seeing their case on the stock market, these privatized prisons making money on these bonds, being insured, and these investors making money all from this stuff, from this paper. But as stated, you would have to audit their records, which more than likely, is going to come up bad. One thing about the staff of the court is when we asked them for a W 9, they actually gave a W 9 and they said they're a governmental agency. So governmental and government are different. Government is of government. Governmental with the AL means government like. So it could be quasi or pseudo. But for them to be true government, like true blue to true, they would be tax exempt. So this is like a derivative, like taking a mustard seed and watering it down, or them being a similar variation, but not actually true government. So that's where you would get in a colorable, meaning it resembles but not, or prima facie, meaning that it is what it is until challenged or looked upon further review, like this paper. So basically, that's where you would get that into, is looking into their records and stuff like that. But as stated, I'll move this around, and you could pause it right here. So right here, just pause it as I move it, and you'll run the 40506 with the IRS to see their tax exemption once you get the W-9 from this court. So as stated, back from the forged court orders that we received, you would have to think no one is going to pay taxes on something they're forging. And they're getting away with this because the public doesn't know and they don't question this. So if they're forging documents, what else they're doing that's wrong? That would be something that's discovered. But as stated, they would say, we're not going to look into this, possibly the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office, because they would say this is a threat to public safety and public interest. But the reality is that this agency and the way that they're operating is a threat to public safety and public interest because they're under the guise of being a tax exempt entity, but no records reflect that they are who they're claiming to be. So this is a threat to the safety in the public because they're dishing out these court orders, they're rubber stamping them and robo stamping them, and they're just generating these orders, but no one questions, is this valid? You have the Marin County Sheriff's Office enforcing these orders, but as stated, the Marin County Sheriff's Office is not tax exempt. So as stated, if they were all true government, they would all have a tax exempt status. And when we audited them, none of them did. So this is the threat to public safety and public interest, is that they're thinking and they're banking on the people not questioning their authority to do things. I'm not saying they don't have authority, but the validity of the authority is in question because they don't have the proper insurance. They don't have the proper bonding. The sheriff doesn't have surety bonds or indemnity bonds or marshal bonds to carry out their daily duties. They have an umbrella policy for the county, but that is not like a surety bond or indemnity bond because they're dealing with people's lives and their property. And as stated with these tax exempt status, the whole validity is in question to whether it's invalid their whole organization. So that's just something I wanted to touch on. Um, we did 3 of these, so we could say it's like a trilogy: County of Marin, uh, County Council, which basically is under the County of Marin. They're not tax exempt. The court here, and then also the sheriff. So please like and subscribe, share. As stated, I don't wake up to talk bad about anybody, but the truth is the truth. So I have to speak it out. As stated, why would they forge my court orders and one day just do that and just say, okay, we're going to forge his court orders? The reality is that they're forging everybody's court orders. So if they're forging court orders and they're making money from that and they're not tax exempt, they're committing tax evasion. They're doing all kinds of fraud, money laundering, because this is not going to show up on their record. So they either have books that are flawed or they have multiple sets of books, which is also red flag to their GAAP, general, what is it? General accounting something principles. And also the way that they run their organizations, which you could look up FASB, FASB, and GASB, GASB, that has to deal with government entities. So I'll end this video, and I thank you for listening. May God forgive me if I said anything wrong, and take care. Bye.